Warning, due to the subject matter of the following video, viewer discretion is advised. This channel is dedicated to those looking for truth. If you wish to continue to be comforted with lies, please find another channel. This channel is not for you.
At the top, nearly 700 migrants caught in one day. That is according to the Valley's highest-ranking Border Patrol agent.
The chief says our border with Mexico is the busiest in the nation for illegal immigration. Channel 5's Trayson Bragg met with agents as they try to stay a step ahead of the bad guys. Trayson?
In our investigation, we learned smuggling trends go in and out of style, but law enforcement has to be prepared for anything. Fighting crime along the U.S.-Mexico border is unique. That's true for Hidalgo County Precinct 3 Constable Larry Gallardo Jr. His department is tasked with serving warrants and fighting local crime. Unlike most precincts, Gallardo's jurisdiction sits on approximately 21 miles of international border.
We have numbers every day or every other day, anywhere from a few to 20 to 30.
He's referring to the number of people in the country illegally his department apprehends. Working as a team with Border Patrol is a must. Sergeant Dan Broyles says in the field he's witnessed just about every smuggling tactic in the book.
They'll use it till they burn it out. They'll find something new. They'll burn that out and they'll continue. And then at the very end, they'll start back over.
Broyles says using cloned vehicles in smuggling attempts is one of those retro tactics that are now re-emerging. Yesterday at the Falfurrias checkpoint, Border Patrol agents discovered the unexpected.
A smuggler used EMT or EMS vehicle to try to bring 4 people through the checkpoint.
Border Patrol agent Carlos Ruiz tells us the driver and 4 Brazilian nationals were apprehended after a short chase. He says a K-9 agent alerted agents something was wrong. He adds an agent's best asset is their experience.
There is certain things that tells them what to do and what to look for.
Last week, agents discovered a man in the country illegally hiding in a tractor-trailer spare tire. Today, others were found hiding in the air dam of another tractor-trailer, and a minor was found stuffed in the duffel bag in the trunk of a vehicle.
It's very dangerous. They have nowhere to hold on or nothing. Anything that can happen, they could fall off and injure and probably cause death.
Ruiz explains they will continue to watch for evolving smuggling tactics. Ruiz adds the investigation into how the smuggler acquired the EMS vehicle and its decals is still under investigation. In the studio, Trayson Bragg, Channel 5 News.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers raided more than a dozen businesses, mostly located in central Nebraska. This video, courtesy of News Channel Nebraska, comes after dozens of people were loaded onto a Homeland Security bus. According to Homeland Security, 133 people were arrested for immigration violations. Another 17 are accused of colluding to create a workforce of illegal aliens. Today's arrests are part of a 15-month investigation.
Many of the people detained at this time yesterday after a federal immigration raid in O'Neill are back in their homes tonight.
But the town is still reeling from what unfolded. Dozens of suspected illegal immigrants taken into custody, as well as locals accused of exploiting them. That's our top story this afternoon.
KCAU 9's Rebecca Pryor is live in O'Neill today. She's been talking with folks there about how this last 24 hours has been. Rebecca?
That's right, Tim and Jenna. As I walk the streets of O'Neill, an already small town feels even smaller today as the town is taken overnight. Yesterday, the local high school became a safe haven for kids separated from their families. But by 8 p.m. last night, the superintendent of public schools says they were all placed somewhere safe.
Well, you know, we're a small community, a close community, so when one member hurts, everybody hurts. It's a very giving community. There were a number of people, I can't tell you, countless texts, emails, phone calls I had from our community saying, what do we need to do for these families? Tell us how we can help.
Students walk from O'Neill, Nebraska to steps of the courthouse courthouse in Macon, Nebraska.
Of the 133 immigrants taken, reportedly about 50 have been returned back to their homes. Those still in custody either had prior felonies or had been deported once before. The town of O'Neill is still very much in shock. Plenty of questions still left unanswered. I will keep you guys up to date as more is revealed. Reporting live in O'Neill, Nebraska, Rebecca Pryor, KCAU 9 News.
Yesterday's events in O'Neill have put other Siouxland communities on edge. In South Sioux City, Unity in Action is working with community members to ease that uncertainty. The agency works to bring people together and eliminate boundaries and is hosting meetings to help inform people of their immigration rights. Raids like those in O'Neill often bring people together, according to workers at the agency, but the long-term effects are still unknown.
It leaves a sour taste in people's mouths when you hear such a big story like this, but also because there's implications. There's economic implications. You don't know what's going to the impact of this is going to be on the economic side of the town. Also, people are just the relations are broken, not only within community members but also with law enforcement. So it's hard to repair those.
Guevara says that events like yesterday's not only separate families, but also communities.
We have more on an immigration raid today.
That's right. ICE served warrants at 11 locations here in Nebraska. Channel 8 Eyewitness News reporter Katrina Spurl joins us now with more information in our top story.
That's right, Ron and Megan. Raids like these happen because President Donald Trump's administration has been carrying out enforcement actions against employers who hire illegal labor.
Enough is enough.
According to a press release by the Department of Homeland Security, more than 130 people were arrested on immigration violations. This includes not only Nebraska, but also Minnesota and Nevada. 5 of the businesses were in O'Neill, including their tomato processing plant. There are about 80 workers, but after the raid, it might be down to 20. The elementary school in town is providing care for children impacted.
Those people that have reached out to me, and those people have been numerous, by phone call, by text, by email, offering support as far as food, as far as if these children need a place to stay.
The press release also states that this enforcement action is part of a 15-month ongoing investigation. Governor Pete Ricketts said ICE is just enforcing the law. A special agent in charge said, quote, "The job magnet in the United States is primarily what draws illegal aliens across the borders." The Nebraska Appleseed director made a statement, quote, "Senseless raids like these today leave long-lasting damage across entire communities." Here are a few actions ACLU is taking after this immigration raid.
We are empowering people to know their rights. We are fielding calls from individuals and families that are impacted to try and connect them with attorneys to help manage their immigration cases.
We also reached out to the Republican Party, but they had no statement. Now, the last time a major immigration raid happened in Nebraska, it was in 2006 when law enforcement officials swarmed a beef plant in Grand Island.
Rob, some of those workers detained yesterday have now been released. Many of them came here to the Methodist Church in O'Neill, where liaisons are here to help them navigate the legal challenges ahead.
In the middle of the night, finally they released us. We came back to O'Neill.
Workers detained in Grand Island arrived back in O'Neill late Wednesday night. We spoke to one of the men released, asking to hide his identity to protect himself and his family.
But the good thing is we don't have any criminal record here. We are clear. Finally, they decide to release us.
The man and his wife have lived in O'Neill for the last 18 years. Both employees of O'Neill Ventures, the tomato plant ICE officials raided Wednesday.
They start asking where we are from. And they are asking for the papers, if we are undocumented or we have legal here in this country.
That's when the man says ICE loaded them onto a bus and took them to Grand Island.
Everybody was scared. Because the most of us we have kids here, and honestly we don't know what's happened. We will be deported or what happened.
The man says ICE scheduled his next court hearing before releasing him.
deporta o nos quedamos aquí? The immigration officer told me last night, the judge will have the last final decision if we have to be deported or we can stay here.
He and his wife out of work till then. They now fear for themselves and their 2 kids.
Cosa nueva que nunca jamás habíamos pasado. This is a new process for us, and we're scared about this.
We were not allowed inside the church where they're collecting supplies and giving families a safe place to go. I'm told attorneys will also be here tomorrow offering pro bono consultations. Reporting in O'Neill, Taylor Barth, KETV, Newswatch 7.
Spent the day and spoke with people who live there.
One day after the ICE raids hit O'Neill, the town is more or less back to normal, except for a few stark differences. For one, the Mexican restaurant involved in the investigation, La Herradura, is closed. And the immigrant community in town is quite frankly scared of what happens next.
What you have is families that are without a breadwinner for a period of time, and we're talking about families that, financial means might have been limited to begin with, and so we want to make sure that their basic needs are met.
Brian Korgel is one of several O'Neill residents, making sure supplies and legal assistance get to the family of those affected by the ICE raids yesterday. He says he's been unable to reach all the families involved.
We're trying to still identify. I know we've got a lot of families that are scared. They're, hunkered down in locations where they feel safe.
One place kids usually feel safe is in school. But O'Neill School Superintendent Amy Shane does not expect full classrooms when school begins next Thursday.
It's a lot for any child to deal with. I'm afraid we'll probably see a lot of these children not return to school next week. I think that they will either have gone elsewhere or they'll just stay home.
Shane and her staff are working with the Hispanic community to reassure kids and parents that they'll be okay inside these doors.
I hope that they know that it's always been a safe place and that we can reassure them of that, but I don't know how they're going to react. I think trusting is going to be very hard for them.
Once the dust settles, Korgel ultimately hopes the ICE raids bring immigration reform back to the forefront in Washington.
The reality is we can't continue to kick the can down the road as it relates to immigration reform at the federal level. This is the result of that inaction, and we can't do it anymore.
And this issue is not going to die quickly. I'm told that there's going to be a public meeting in the near future to discuss what the town is going to do next. In O'Neill, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
ICE carries out a raid spanning 2 states and targeting criminals who promote the employment of illegal immigrants. One America's Luke Glaze has more.
President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration heats up after more than 130 suspected violators were arrested in a large-scale federal raid. The Department of Homeland Security announced Wednesday the operation targeted agricultural facilities in Nebraska and Minnesota, where officials claim employers knowingly hired and manipulated illegal immigrants. Special agents from ICE swept around 12 businesses and plants, indicting a total of 17 owners and managers for fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. Of those indicted, 14 were arrested and taken into custody, while ICE continues searching for the remaining 3. With roughly 400 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers teaming up to get the job done, authorities say the raid was one of the largest operations in Homeland Security's 15-year history. In the past, raids have largely targeted illegal workers, but ICE officials say they knew they could take down the men in charge this time, after exposing a widespread scheme to use fake social security numbers and names to get around immigration laws. Meantime, liberal civil rights groups like the ACLU immediately spoke out to criticize the operation, implying it was a racist campaign aimed at spreading misery and dividing the nation. The progressive left has repeatedly railed against the White House's initiative to enforce border laws, and have even called for abolishing ICE altogether.
American civil rights have eroded over the last 14 years. In order for us to feel safer in our streets, our churches, our schools, and our homes, we must abolish ICE.
However, conservatives view the successful sweep as a fulfillment of President Trump's promise to keep the nation safe by cracking down on criminal employers who look to cheat the system and expelling immigrants who defied laws to benefit from American jobs.
So to the courageous public servants at ICE,
men and women, great ones. We want you to know that the American people are with you, and my administration has your back 100%. You are the heroes who protect the lives of our citizens.
Luke Glaze, One American News.
Lisa, a Cambridge man is under arrest accused of threatening ICE agents on Twitter. Police say he was offering cash to someone who would kill ICE agents, and that wasn't the only threat. WBZ's Beth Germano joins us now with the story.
It all started with a tweet July 2nd, seen by cyber analysts with Homeland Security, offering $500 to anyone who kills an ICE agent. Federal officials say it came from 33-year-old Brandon Ziobrowski of Cambridge and dangerously crossed the line.
Feeling strongly on this subject is fine. Putting people's lives in danger, not fine.
With more than 400 followers, the tweet reached a social media audience that officials worry could have been taken seriously. And while stressing citizens have a First Amendment right, they made a broader point for placing Ziobrowski under arrest today.
What we're doing here is making clear that there is a point at which rhetoric veers into irresponsible and sometimes criminal acts. And in our view, that's what happened here.
Officials say Ziobrowski's alleged tweets against law enforcement have grown increasingly violent.
Guns should only be legal for shooting the police like the Second Amendment intended.
They say it started with an early tweet in 2009. Ziobrowski allegedly saying he wanted to slit the throat of Senator John McCain. In his Cambridge neighborhood, residents say Ziobrowski could often be seen by the window at his computer, but not someone who would carry out such threats, one calling it troubling.
I think people at all levels, including right up to the White House, have to be careful about what they put out on social media and what actions it might incite.
It's the kind of political discourse federal officials fear is ramping up and having an impact, citing the cases of 4 Massachusetts police officers shot in the last few months.
Enough is enough. This case reflects the ever-present potential for the violence against federal agents and law enforcement officers.
Federal officials say the tweet got 2 likes, but they don't know if anyone ever responded offline to the murder-for-hire offer. Ziobrowski was tracked to New York and arrested today. He'll be in federal court in Boston next week.
Now, there is on a parallel track people who voice strong views about the immigration debate, and that's all fine. I'm sure the vast majority of them don't want to see anyone come to harm. But what we're doing here is making clear that there is a point at which rhetoric veers into irresponsible and sometimes criminal acts.
That's U.S. Attorney Andrew Lelling talking about the arrest of a Massachusetts man in New York. He was allegedly trying to hire a hitman on Twitter to kill ICE agents just for $500. Now, 33-year-old Brandon Ziobrowski also allegedly repeatedly shared his desire to, quote, slit the throat of Senator John McCain. Back, David Ward, your take on this case.
You know, we're going down the slippery slope of anarchy throughout the country. It doesn't matter if it's ICE agents, Border Patrol, or the local or state police. There's a complete disavowalment of law enforcement in this country. And now we have these politicians calling for the abolishment of ICE because they're out there doing the job that Congress mandated them to do. And we have Antifa out there around the country, which this 33-year-old nitwit out of Massachusetts is probably part of, wanting to bring even more harm into towards law enforcement. Look at Portland. They took over the entire area of the ICE office in Portland, Oregon, set up a camp and threatened ICE agents and ICE personnel coming and going from their office over a false narrative. ICE did not have anything to do with the border, with the children being separated from their parents. ICE does not raid churches, ICE does not raid schools, but this is the mantra, this is the missive that the Democrats are throwing out to these people out here that are believing everything that the Democrats are telling them.
You know, let me back up. Homeland Security warned in June, quote, that there was a recent publication of a database of personal information of more than 9,000 ICE employees, including their location and their job history, that was scraped from LinkedIn. Now, we know that the anger about the border came after the White House's zero tolerance policy, along with Jeff Sessions, about separating families at the border. Those families are now being moved to be reunited. But the fallout, David, is that the fact that this personal information of ICE agents is now out there and that they are subject to potential attacks, that's a concern, right?
Well, absolutely it's a concern. The agents have to not only be wary on when they're out in the field doing their jobs, but now they have to be wary at home because we have these knuckleheads out there, these anarchists, this Antifa bunch, out there threatening ICE agents who are doing the job. Based on these false narratives that are coming from Democrats, you have the mayor of Philadelphia wanting the abolishment of ICE. You have the governor of New York saying the same thing, and a bunch of these candidates are all yelling about abolishing ICE. It feeds into the hatred that these Antifa and these anarchists have against law enforcement in the first place.
Let me just break in, because Homeland Security is telling their ICE workers, keep your doors and windows at home locked. That's the advice there.
Well, you have to. You have to take precautions now because of what's happening.
All right, let's get to this case. Moving on, a previously deported illegal immigrant from Honduras, his name is Juan Ramon Vasquez. He allegedly raped a 5-year-old child after Philadelphia authorities ignored an ICE detainer and released him. He is now pleading guilty to illegal reentry. He faces up to 2 years in federal prison. David, this case is beyond words. This is a kind of repugnant evil and violence that the Trump White House wants to stop.
Here we have another prior deport. This guy's already been deported from the country, back in the United States, in Philadelphia, gets released by the local authorities, and goes out and rapes a 5-year-old kid. The Democrats do not give a damn about our citizens and their health and welfare. A 5-year-old child.
All right, recently, some of the left have been calling for ICE to be abolished. That means open borders. We sent our own Tommy Lahren to the liberal bastion of Portland, Oregon, the site of anti-ICE protests, to find out what people thought about illegal immigration and ICE. Let's take a look at this.
I don't know if you've seen in the last couple of weeks, but your city has been kind of home to some protesting, some controversy, a lot of surrounding your mayor and the Occupy ICE movement.
Right.
Familiar with any of that?
Yes.
What do you think about it?
I think that they should be able to protest.
Do you think that Portland's gotten more militant in the last year, 2 years?
I'll just say crazy.
Crazy?
We have a real problem with immigration. There's no simple answers here.
Do you think that abolishing ICE is a step in the right direction?
I think we have to look at our entire immigration policy. Our policy has failed.
Do you think that the protesting on either side has gotten out of hand?
For sure.
What do you think it's about? Do you think it's about really standing up for rights, or is it about getting attention? What do you think's the goal?
I don't know. I think people have like a lot of personal vendettas and want to be like personal warriors or something, and
social justice warriors, maybe?
For sure. On both sides, though.
Fox News? Yeah, you're a hater too.
But I'm nice.
Doesn't matter.
My name is Tommy.
Don't care.
You just don't like Fox News?
No, because Fox News is nothing but a bunch of capitalist lies.
Very hostile in Portland. I mean, I know there's a lot of out-of-towners. They even
you just saw it. Absolutely. Unfortunately, the only views that are being projected out here are extremist views. And so you get extremist reactions. And thus why you get extreme behavior of people coming up to you and flipping you off.
Do you think a lot of the people in Portland are misinformed as to what ICE actually does?
They just think about the kids coming over with their mom or whatever. They don't think about the corruption that's coming in, the drug dealers.
Do you plan to go to any of the Occupy ICE protests?
Depending on what my work schedule looks like.
All right.
Liberal cities on the West Coast, they aren't the only places protecting illegal immigrants. Listen to what the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, said about ICE.
I will do nothing cooperatively with ICE. I have sent them letters asking for an investigation. I have said if they do any criminal acts, which a police force can do, we will take criminal action against ICE because I believe they are politically motivated.
And you will never be president.
Picture of a bike helmet with what appears to be a flashbang lodged in it is why David Mason and others showed up at City Hall. David was hoping to talk about police reform, but didn't get the chance.
It's disappointing, of course, but we'll make sure we get on the docket for next week.
Francesca Barini hoped to do the same.
I personally have a lot of anger about the situation that evolved over the weekend, so I'm not here to tone police anybody who's downstairs chanting. I think that it's great that people have shown up at all for this kind of thing. Like, it does make it difficult to have a conversation.
Police reform wasn't on the city council agenda, but that didn't stop some from bringing it up.
Saturday, as a medic, I observed Portland police directly firing at the crowds.
A short time later, the council meeting quickly stopped when chanting broke out.
End police brutality! End police brutality!
forcing council members to move to a different room.
I said, end police brutality, spoke up and said that. We then began chanting, and then City Council got up and walked out.
Rebecca Smith is part of another group calling for both police reform and an end to U.S. immigration and customs enforcement in Portland.
Why can't you step up, Portland, City Councilor, Mayor Wheeler, and end your contract with ICE? It's very simple.
When the council meeting moved, things escalated quickly. 2 protesters laying in the hallway were arrested after they refused to leave. And at one point, the group protesting ICE blocked the entrance to City Hall, yelling on bullhorns.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
As officers forced the group out the door. Portland police say 2 City Hall security officers were assaulted. Despite what happened today, though, many plan to try to speak with the mayor again next week.
Be emailing the city and reaching out to make sure that we can facilitate some conversations about this, because it's important that we, move forward on this for the safety and protection of the residents of Portland.
As you can see, there are still a small group of ICE protesters outside of City Hall here tonight. I did reach out to the mayor, but he declined to comment. Back to you.
We're looking at all of these border crossings, and it's been really wonderful to see the decline, yet we still obviously have a very clear problem, and this has become such an emotional issue, really, for voters, because I think, no matter where you are, clearly, if you're in a state like yours, Congresswoman, you feel it more as a voter, but I think all around the country, people are saying, okay, we need a little bit of common sense. I think your audio is good now, so we're going to go back to you, but you need some common sense, and common sense means you need borders if you actually have a country.
Exactly. If we don't have borders, we don't have a country. And this is very emotional for the 5th generation ranchers that I represent, who have been watching the failed policies of the last administration. Cartels trafficking through our communities. The opioids are coming to a community near you. People are dying every single day from this. We have got to build a border wall. We've got to crack down on sanctuary cities, crack down on gang violence, MS-13. We've got to close these loopholes so that the Border Patrol doesn't have to release people into the interior of the United States.
You know what the left would say right now, though? They'd say you're fear-mongering. I can just see one of the late-night shows replaying you just saying exactly what you did in that clip, and they'll laugh it off and say somehow you're trying to put the blame on poor, innocent immigrants that are coming here just for their shot at a better life. What do you say to members of the left that shrug off your comments?
I would ask them to join me at the border so they can see firsthand what these hardened cartel operatives are doing as they're trafficking drugs and weapons and people and money through our communities. This is a public safety issue. It's a national security threat. It is not a laughing matter, and it shouldn't be played for political purposes. This is so important for our communities and our country. We must secure our border. There are dangerous cartel activity happening every single day, and they're taking advantage of the loopholes in our law. I authored a bill, the first that President Trump endorsed, that we address these issues. $38 billion guaranteed for the border wall and border security while closing these other loopholes. Unfortunately, we didn't get enough people to vote for it to get it out of the House. But I'm going to keep fighting until we get the mission done because it's so important.
You're hoping to be in the Senate. If Mitch McConnell can't really round up everyone on this issue, where does that leave Senator McConnell?
Well, I will tell you, in the House, we only had 193 Republicans vote for my bill. Guaranteed funding for border security, moving us away from chain migration and the visa lottery towards a merit-based system. Sometimes getting Republicans to get together on something is like herding cats. But I've been in the arena working with President Trump to lead on this. And when I get over to the Senate, 89 days from now is Election Day. And we've got outside groups, by the way, Democrat super PACs associated with George Soros and Tom Steyer trying to take me down right now, $3 million, because they know I'm the only conservative who's going to stand up and lead on this issue and win this Senate seat in November and keep working with President Trump to secure our border. This is so important to the people I represent. I'm passionate about it, and I'm not going to let it go when I get over there.
Yeah, no, that passion comes across for sure, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good to have you here.
Years of emotions came spilling out at Metro Airport tonight for a long-awaited reunion. The family of Ali Ahmad has been trying to get him here since 2002, and after a long immigration battle, they are finally together. 7 Action News reporter Brian Abel is live at Metro Airport tonight. So what a day for them, Brian.
Yeah, an emotional one too, and it almost didn't
happen again after Ali was stopped in Chicago by TSA. They caused him to miss his flight here, making his reunion with his family that much sweeter. An emotional end to an exhausting journey for Ali Ahmad. Reuniting with his parents who've been trying to bring him to Michigan for nearly 2 decades. We talked to Ali and his family through an interpreter.
But now, thank God, I am very happy because I landed in America.
In 2002, Ali's father, a U.S. citizen, first petitioned for this moment, hoping to bring his son here from some 7,000 miles away in Yemen. This timeline provided by the Center for Constitutional Rights documents the struggles, from being told the application was complete, to calling an embassy for 4 years, to the case being closed, reapplying again, having multiple DNA tests to confirm Ali is his father's son, to 2017, where months after his visa approval, the Trump administration's travel ban. Did you ever give up hope of coming back?
I never give up, and my only hope is coming to America and live the right life.
Then just weeks ago, a sudden change of luck, a waiver for Ali. There would be one more hurdle in Chicago, though.
In Chicago, I arrived and I couldn't find a translator for me to translate from English to Arabic.
TSA pulled him aside, asked questions, searched his luggage. He missed his flight, but was free to go after.
We had a great hope to bring him to America, and now, thank God, he's in America. The first thing, I will try to create my own small business and help the community.
And Ali says that there are plenty of others just like him from his country of Yemen with family here in the U.S., but with change to U.S. immigration policies, they are stuck in the war-torn country. Reporting live, Brian Abel, 7 Action News.
Former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty may be taking a page out of President Donald Trump's playbook.
In a new campaign ad, the Republican claims that the state wastes millions on welfare, like free health benefits for undocumented immigrants. Is that true? Here's Pat Kessler's reality check.
The ad claims that free medical benefits are going to thousands of people who don't deserve them.
An important audit revealed Minnesota's wasting hundreds of millions giving free health care to people who aren't even eligible.
It's true. It's based on this 2016 study by the nonpartisan Office of the Minnesota Legislative Auditor. And yes, that's exactly what it says. The audit reviewed a sample of hundreds of thousands of Medicaid and Minnesota Care files. It found about 30% of the participants may have been ineligible. The audit estimates up to 132,000 people didn't qualify for the program in which they were enrolled, and 108,000 more were not eligible for any program. The overpayment, $271 million. So the study on which the ad is based is real. But it's an exaggeration to say undocumented immigrants are responsible. The ad highlights an immigration protest and what appears to be defiant people climbing over a border wall. But the audit doesn't say that. It cites immigration status for only a fraction of the people.
I'll make sure people who get government benefits actually qualify for them and that they're here legally.
That's not the whole story. The audit blames lax oversight, poor training, and outdated software, not undocumented immigrants. The Department of Human Services questions the accuracy of the audit itself. It says it's made significant improvements and that Minnesota's public health care programs are intended to serve only those who are eligible. That's Reality Check.
Nancy Pelosi says voting for Democrats is the only way to give leverage to illegal immigrants.
We are not going to be able to get it done under the Republican leadership in Congress. We believe that we will have leverage when we win in November. And why that's important? Because it gives leverage to every family, to every mom who courageously brought her child across the desert to escape.
The House Minority Leader making the comments in El Paso, Texas. Pelosi discussing her opposition to President Trump's zero-tolerance immigration policy.
Department of Homeland Security says more than 600,000 foreign travelers who legally entered America last year overstayed their visa. Nick Adams is with us. He's the author of that book, Green Card Warrior. Nick, it would seem to me to be almost impossible to stop people overstaying their visas. How do you do it?
Well, it might be difficult, but I think that the full force of the law, Stuart, has to be brought against those people, because the day that they overstay is the day that they become illegal. And the full force of the law should be brought to locate them, deport them, and make sure that they're never able to come back.
Well, that's awfully hard to do, Nick. I mean, they're coming on maybe a tourist visa. You don't know where they are. You can't keep track of everybody on a tourist. You simply can't do that. So how do you full force of the legal authorities to go after them? How do you do that?
Well, I don't know, but we certainly need to try something, Stuart, because we can't just have people come and break the law. We want people in our country that are going to obey the law, not disregard or disrespect them.
OK, now, President Trump, we hear, is making a proposal that would make it much harder for legal immigrants, green card people, to get citizenship if they've ever used any form of welfare. In other words, you can have a green card, but if you sign up for Obamacare, you can't go on to citizenship. That seems a little harsh, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, Stuart, I agree with you. I mean, I think that the immigrant population, much like the rest of the population, needs to have some form of a safety net. But I think the general idea here is that people that are going to come to the United States have got to come to make and not take. They've got to give, not just receive. And so I think it is important that we choose people more carefully, those that are going to come to this country, and that's going to alleviate a lot of the problems that we have.
You know, a lot of people are going to take umbrage at people like you and I saying we've got to be much more careful on who we select to come here. Both of us have got foreign accents. Both of us come from someplace else. You get a little flack, do you, sir?
Oh, no, look, I'm really happy to be in the same camp as you, Stuart. Both of us don't have beards. Both of us use Gillette razors. So, look, I think we make model immigrants.
Well said, young man. You're back on this show tomorrow morning if you're not careful. Nick Adams, great book, good guy. We'll see you again soon.
People are really concerned about what choices they're going to have to make if they want to adjust their status.
Heightened concerns tonight over a proposed federal policy that many say attacks legal immigrants. Critics say the policy could penalize legal immigrants whose families receive public benefits and make it more difficult for them to get citizenship.
CBS 13's Sharon Roger is getting answers tonight on the big impact this could have on so many people and the new legal hurdles it can cause. She's live in studio with more on this.
Yeah, Tony and Christina, many immigration attorneys say if this policy is implemented, it would be the most significant change to legal immigration in decades. They add it could also affect millions of would-be citizens. And here in Sacramento, the plan is already stirring up emotions.
Clients calling to see if they need to cancel their benefits. So there's a lot of anxiety.
Sacramento immigration attorney Risa Morris has been bombarded with calls. She says people are concerned about how their use of certain government assistance programs could potentially affect their ability to obtain a green card or citizenship.
So even if the children are receiving Medi-Cal or or the spouse, then that could mean that the applicant's going to be denied their right to either citizenship or residency in the future.
The proposal, if implemented, would essentially penalize applicants if they or their family have used programs like the Affordable Care Act subsidies, food stamps, even some forms of Medicaid.
So that could mean that those parents are going to have to decide between the health of their child or their immigration process, basically.
It could impact people whose children are already citizens.
Like in the case of DACA recipient Jocelyn Bilhern.
All the time that's on my mind, like how this is going to impact me.
She's worried about any negative impact since her 2-year-old receives medical benefits.
My daughter has to have those benefits, that's what I know, but should I stop them?
Attorney Morris is not ruling out the possibility even for dreamers.
If it is implemented, obviously, then we have to look at case-by-case basis to see if it's worth it for them to give up this benefit.
The immigrant community confronted with a new fear, wondering, could this be a way to limit legal immigrants?
They make it a lot harder for our clients to actually reach their goals of staying with their families in the United States. And so, sure, this could be one such strategy.
And the White House has been reviewing the proposal since March, but concerns over potential lawsuits have delayed any final approval. And they say if you have any concerns, consult an attorney for further steps.
You don't have to agree with her, but you don't have to be smart ass about it. I'm not. I'm being mad. Just like you're mad at me.
Things got a little heated during today's County Commissioners Court meeting.
So what is it that set off that exchange? Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. That exchange apparently happened when County Commissioners asked Sheriff Jim Kalen some questions about a controversial program that his office is enrolled in.
Now, that program is called 287G, and Commissioners wanted the Sheriff to address community concerns about it. Now, if you're not familiar with it, 287G is an Immigrations and Customs Enforcement program. It allows local law enforcement to check someone's immigration status through ICE and turn them over for deportation if they're here illegally. That's why some people are concerned. The sheriff reassured commissioners, however, that his deputies will not be enforcing immigration law out on the streets, but only in the jail.
Once you come into the jail, all bets are off. If you're found to be an illegal entrant into this country, and we will turn you over to immigration.
Now, once Sheriff Kalen was done with his presentation, the floor was open for comment, and that's when tempers started to flare a bit. Greg Chandler attended this morning's meeting, and he joins us now to explain what happened. Greg.
Lee, things started going downhill when members of the Corpus Christi Immigration Coalition voiced their displeasure with 287G. That's when Commissioner Brent Chesney stepped in with some tough questions of his own. What happened next caught the gallery by surprise.
I don't need to calm down if I don't want to.
County Commissioner Brent Chesney was fired up because he felt Sheriff Jim Kalen answered the Corpus Christi Immigration Coalition's concerns about 287G.
I was just trying to ask some tougher questions because there were some comments made that I didn't understand where they were coming from, and they didn't seem to relate to the issue on the agenda.
Commissioner John Mares accused Chesney of being disrespectful with the speakers, which led to a heated discussion between the commissioners.
At least give him some respect. You don't have to agree with her, but you don't have to be smart-ass about it. I'm not. I'm being mad. Just like you're mad at me. You get to be mad at me, John, and I respect that.
There's no ill will there. Sometimes we call each other out, and hopefully we correct each other, or if not, we'll get over it soon after that.
It's a shame that you won't let me talk.
We don't have that happen a lot because we really do get along. Now, at the same time, we do have different philosophies on things, and so you're always going to have debates on philosophical differences.
This is the first time I've even weighed in with this group.
Both say their differences were quickly settled. Commissioner Chesney says he meant no disrespect towards the Immigration Coalition.
And if I was sarcastic, that was not my intent. I was asking tough questions. I was asking hard questions. I think that's my job, is to ask hard questions.
The Immigration Coalition members say they were surprised with what happened at the meeting. Meanwhile, Commissioners Chesney and Mares say they agree more often than they don't and have a good working relationship with everyone on Commissioners Court. Lee?
All right, thank you very much, Greg. Well, getting back to that 287G program, county commissioners also wanted to know what it's costing the county. And as Sheriff Jim Kalen told them, it doesn't cost the county a penny because it's only a jail program.
New tonight, a Republican congressman's come up with a plan to fund the president's border wall by penalizing the countries whose citizens enter the U.S. illegally. Republicans control both houses of Congress, so why aren't they getting more done on the immigration front? Will this be one of those things? Let's ask the man who's putting the plan forward. Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs, member of the House Freedom Caucus, joins us live. Congressman, welcome.
Thank you, Shannon. Good to be with you.
Okay, so my understanding is there's essentially a $2,000 charge ahead for people who are caught here coming illegally, and what will happen is the U.S. would deduct those amounts from the foreign aid going to these countries, whether it's Mexico, Guatemala, China, wherever it is. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, if we're giving U.S. aid and they're not helping us, which is the case in many of these countries, and we find these people crossing the border illegally or visa overstays, that we're going to charge them $2,000 by reducing that from the foreign aid that they have. I think that's a small part of the funding mechanism that I've put together, but it is an important part because it provides an additional deterrent. Mm-hmm. So right now Mexico is not really helping us enforce our border. This will help them be inspired to help us.
Okay, so I want to give you a chance to respond to a couple of critics on Twitter who are responding to your plan. Mark R. says this: yes, stealing money from the governments of countries where people are fleeing from poverty and violence will certainly help alleviate those issues and stop people from trying to escape them by coming here. He says stealing money. This is foreign aid, right?
Yeah, it's foreign aid. It's not stealing money. It's money that we have been providing. And these are people, many of these people are crossing not at ports of entry. They're not coming through legally trying to get into our country. They are breaking into our country. They are coming to our country illegally. We have no idea who these people are, but we know that they're in the neighborhood of 500,000 people that we will actually apprehend. we don't even know what the multiplier is. It may be 1 million people, maybe 2 million people that actually crossed the border illegally this year.
All right, let me give you another one. A Moment in Time tweets this. Good luck with that. What a waste of time. The GOP can't even pass their own hardline immigration bills. Just stop the show, man.
Well, it's not meant to be a show. It's meant to actually provide a funding mechanism for the wall that all of us kind of pledged to, we would do when we were running for office. It's what propelled President Trump to the presidency, quite frankly. And I think it's something I promised. I know it's something I promised, and I think it's something many promised. So I'm trying to find a funding mechanism and provide impetus and inspiration for my colleagues in Congress to actually pass this bill, get it out there, get the bill up, or get the wall up, so we can actually slow down human smuggling, drug trafficking, and let's enforce our border.
Well, we know it's a heavy lift to get anything done on the Hill right now. Keep us informed, Congressman Biggs, about how it goes.
Thank you, Shannon.
The city once called the Paris of the West now resembles a homeless encampment by the bay. I thought LA was bad, then I went to San Francisco. It's time for final thoughts. San Francisco is at or near the top of any list of America's most expensive cities. It's a huge tech industry hub and home to some of the world's most successful startups. But that's not all. Some sections of the city are also awash with tents, used syringes, and human waste. Lovely, right? There were nearly 7,500 people living on the streets of San Francisco, according to the city's own 2017 homeless census. That's a bit less than 1% of the city's total population. But this isn't just a San Francisco problem. Roughly a quarter of the U.S. homeless population lives in California. I recently visited San Francisco and was shocked to see the number of people sprawled out on the sidewalks, many either sleeping or passed out drunk in broad daylight in front of designer stores and swanky restaurants, families and children all around. But it wasn't just the homeless. The streets were littered with trash and human waste. In fact, the San Francisco Chronicle's sister website reports that more than 20,000 feces-related complaints were made to the city last year. Believe me when I say it was absolutely disgusting, but also dangerous. Getting accidentally stuck by a used needle can cause diseases like HIV or hepatitis B and C. So where did San Francisco go wrong? How did it get so bad? Well, like much of California, the city is unaffordable for most middle-class Americans. Rent in the city averages more than $3,500 per month, according to a recent study. That's helped create a city of rich tech gurus on one side and the homeless underclass on the other. But here's another problem. Some of the people on the streets aren't just down on their luck homeless, they're ex-cons. Blame the California legislature for this one. Back in 2011, it passed Assembly Bill 109, the so-called realignment law. The idea was to ease prison overcrowding by redefining some 70 crimes as less serious or non-violent. So some of the people who should have been behind bars no doubt ended up on the streets. But they weren't done. Proposition 47 was approved in 2014, and that converted a series of crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. And in 2017, the legislature passed Senate Bill 180, which limits the ability of law enforcement to send chronic drug abusers back to prison. Yeah, it's hard to imagine how this didn't send even more people onto the streets. So homelessness for some has become a choice in California, one that hardworking residents have to simply put up with. San Francisco's liberal paradise is and has been run by Democratic mayors for more than 50 years. And one of those Democrats, Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, may well be the state's next governor. Now, I'm not saying Democrats cause homelessness, but it would sure seem their policies don't help solve it. We don't have to accept San Francisco as the new normal. That's why it's more important than ever to get out and vote this November. Those are my final thoughts from LA. God bless and take care.